Today, I have with us Betsy Wilson. She's with Elite Home Staging here in Los Angeles. And I bumped into her at a broker open just recently, and I said, "Hey, let's talk about staging on the mastermind here." And, me personally, I'm a big believer in staging.
Same.
And I'd say most of my latest listings have been staged at on some level, either vacant and we'll do a bunch of staging, or the challenge is always, what if they still live there and they need a couple little things done? And I have a whole garage full of stuff, but sometimes I'm able to pull in some extra things. I don't know if Betsy, you're able to do that or not, but we'll talk about that. Another thing worth talking about is how you structure your listing agreement or your agreement with your seller in terms of who pays for what, if you sponsor some of the staging, if you have your own staging, or if you have them pay for the entire thing. So these are all kind of questions that I think maybe we might want to discuss and explore here today. So Betsy, I'll let you introduce yourself and thank you for joining us today.
So my name is Betsy Wilson. I'm with Elite Home Staging, which is based in Los Angeles, California. A little bit about the company. Samantha Sienna is the owner of Elite, and we've been in business for over 16 years. We have a 40,000 square foot warehouse in Compton, Los Angeles. So we've got a lot of furniture. We've got over like $10 million worth of furniture. We stage all over. We've got over 11.6. It was 11.6. It's probably almost up to 12K in Instagram followers right now, which is pretty darn cool. We've got 5 to 6 fleets of trucks going out right now. I can't even get staging before the 18th right now because we're so booked up, it's a curse and a blessing. So Samantha's
And,
doing something right.
and Betsy, are you seeing
Yeah,
a lot more activity, or what's just in general? And of course, you're talking about the LA market,
yeah,
and we have people from all over on this call right now.
sure.
But what would you say has been your observation about how things have been going so far this year? Is it more busy
COVID
than
was
normal, or
So COVID was really good for us because, and I'm just going back to that for 1 second because it was so important. When we were in COVID, we literally we were staging every single day when people weren't working. Reason being is that it's so important to stage a home because you don't just get top dollar, you get over asking for it. But um at that point, we weren't even allowed to, no one was allowed to go in the homes. So we couldn't have contact with anybody else except for the house. And then the real estate agent would come in, take the pictures. Now it's gotten to the point where we're getting back to normalcy again. And we're still rocking and rolling because I think that when COVID hit, it really showed real estate agents how important it was to stage a property. And now that the market is actually better right now than it was before because of the interest rates. And now it's actually more important to stage a home because you're not just beautifying a home. You're not just asking us to come in and do a job for you because there's so many different variations about why you want to sell and why you want to stage. So first off, you want to stage because you're going to get top dollar for your property, which is the name of the game. You're bringing in an expert because people are so attached to their properties, they can't see at the end of the light of the tunnel. And so you bring us in because we want to stage to the masses. We want you to come in and feel like that's your home. We want you to come in and feel like that's your home, that etc. And we really get to put a stamp on our mark of everybody feeling like that could be their home. And so going back to what you said, because I'm sorry, I'm a creative Gemini and I sometimes get off the rails, not meaning to, but that's why I do what I do. We're crazy busy right now. We've like 100 homes out at the moment, and it just keeps rocking and rolling for us. And it's because Samantha has the formula, and stagers in general have the formula to make your homes look so beautiful that they sell on the market like that. We've got a 23-day turnaround.
I love hearing that, but I want to kind of dive into some maybe questions that
Sure.
real estate agents have about the importance of staging, but
Yeah.
also how to deal with the clients when it comes to staging and what conversations need to happen. How many out of everyone here is using some sort of staging in your listings right now? Raise your hand. Okay. And we got some and some not. Okay, great. So I think what we need to do is we need to address some of the situations and the conversation regarding how we address staging. And so for some of you that do use staging, what questions can you just type in the chat what questions that you might have for Betsy? And then if you're not using staging, also put in some questions in the chat that you might be thinking about staging or how to work with a stager. And let's see if we can get some of these questions answered. So we have one question from Lynn, and she's in Santa Clarita. I think you handle Santa Clarita.
Yeah, we do. We handle all
Okay.
over.
Yeah, she says, what's your minimum? I have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath manufactured home coming up.
So our minimum, the lowest that we will ever go, but there are some exceptions, is $6,000. And the reason being is that we use top dollar merchandise and we really make your home look beautiful. Plus there's so many other factors that people don't think about. It's the gas, it's the manpower, it's how long we're going to be there. One important thing is though, for the staging in Santa Clarita, it would be a 1-day stage. We usually do 1 day, we're in, we're out, we request the whole entire day, and that's it. So painless and seamless for the real estate agent and also for the sellers. I mean, if you want me to get even more in depth, I'd be happy to.
I got some questions for you. Number one, is staging really worth the investment? So let's just say 6,000 for a 3-bedroom basic kind of home. Is 6,000 worth it? What are your thoughts on that?
100%. The reason being is that the mass cannot, if you have a home and it's not staged and it looks very sterile, you want it to be warm and fuzzy and feel very welcoming. You want that person to come in and vision themselves in that space. So that's a basic, that basic. So if you're not doing that, a lot of people don't have the vision to actually see themselves living in that space. And that's where the problem is. So it's an investment. And I'm telling you right now, I've seen it time and time again because I've been in this industry for so many years. I've seen homes that have, okay, prime example. I had a home in Miracle Mile and I staged it last week. That home was on the market for 5 months. They took it off the market because it wasn't staged. I put it on the market, or they put it on the market, back on the market again, but I staged it and within 2 days it fell into escrow. I'm not saying I'm a miracle worker. I'm not praising myself or anything, but what I am saying is that's the value of the dollar. And they actually got 100,000 over asking price because of the furniture we put in, where we placed it, how it was placed. They could vision themselves in it. So staging is extremely crucial to selling your property. And statistically, you're usually on the market for 23 days to 32 days, but we can extend it out as well. So it makes you feel more comfortable. And something also to make it more personal, I really like to work with my brokers and with the sellers and make them feel comfortable so that they know, and give them a vision and let them know this is what I'm putting in, da 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 da, and keep with the integrity of the home. It's not just about just staging and putting furniture in there. It's about, is the home traditional? Is the home modern? What style is it? And then we just want to elevate it to the next level for you. That's all. And make
Right.
you shine. We're here to make the brokers shine. We're here to make the sellers shine. And we're here to, and not only that, but this is huge too. We have buyout programs. A lot of companies don't do that, but that's actually better for you guys, because if they want some of the furniture, or if they want all of the furniture, I've had it on all different spectrums where I had this client come in and they wanted everything. That's a whole separate deal. You guys don't have to even deal with that, which is so good for you.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that on one of the things that you
Yeah.
said you're doing, where it's you could get the home, let's say
Yep.
it's a nice home and it's already staged, and it's like the buyer could just get everything, as an
100%, even
option.
down to the accessories, everything, whatever they want. But the best part about that is when you're selling your property, then that's your deal. And then when we're selling the furniture, that's a whole separate deal. So the real estate agent doesn't even have to get involved, which is really nice for them. And so nothing's sticky, it's streamlined. It's
And I think you touched on it, but I had a question.
yeah,
How can we convince sellers who might be hesitant about staging? What are some of the things that you could say to them that help say, hey, look, besides, of course, it's going to sell your home faster. Of course, you're going to get more money for it. Is there somewhere that has some proven statistics or something, or what is there that we can really to help if we're having some hesitation with the seller about staging? For me personally, I'm more interested in selling it faster.
sure.
That's my personal preference because, and it's going to help the client to sell it faster for sure.
Yep.
So, and they'll get more money for it. I know that already, but how do you convey this? And the importance of staging is I don't want to sit on a house for 6 months, a year. Hell no. I want it sold right now. So I want everything going for it. So the digital marketing that we do that we're talking about, the staging, the prep work, it's got to feel homey. When someone walks into it, people have a hard time imagining themselves in a house. And so you need to have this extra stuff set up. So what about the person that's hesitant? Let's talk about that. What do you got to kind of convince them? And
All
is that a
right.
conversation where you pull in your stager to do that? How much should the real estate agent be selling staging versus let me bring in my stager?
So I'm actually going on an appointment tonight, funny enough. And this is a situation. So I run into this all the time. A lot of times the stager is not involved in this process because the real estate agent, it's a tricky situation. So the real estate agent always has the upper hand with the
Betsy,
client.
you're cutting up on us. I don't know if,
Am I? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear her.
oh,
Okay.
you hear her fine? Okay, maybe it's just my connection then. All right.
Okay. So the real estate agent always has the upper hand with the client. And when the real estate agent goes through the home, they're obviously going to see, is the home outdated or is the home or the furniture or whatever happens to go on in there. So now I have a situation today where, and I always like to get the background. So always, if you're using a stager, always give us the background on the client so we kind of know what we're walking into because we don't want to walk in blindly. Situation today, walking in, client is kind of hesitant to stage, is going to be living there, which is not ideal for us, but that's called a partial staging, where we can use some of their furniture and then some of our furniture, blah, blah, blah. A lot of times when they're hesitant, it's because they don't want to spend the money for it. And it's our job when the real estate agent brings in the stager to convince them to do that because their home is outdated, their furniture is outdated, you want to have a new fresh feel, or it might be so specific to that property that no one else will be able to actually envision themselves in it. So that's where I come in and say, okay, and you have to do it in a very ginger manner. I don't come in like a bulldozer and say, oh my God, you have to do this, you have to do that, da da da. You walk through, the stager walks through with the real estate agent and the client and says, okay, this can stay, that can stay. This is why this can't stay. This is the market in which we're in. Right now, we're in a very organic, contemporary, organic, modern world. So where we use lots of whites and neutrals and beiges and grays. So that's where the creative mind starts coming in. And that's when I start convincing them, oh, this is why you need it. You need to get some plants in here. You need to get this in there, da 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 da. And it opens their mind because they're very scared and they also don't know what a stager really does. So I'm almost going in there and like hand holding them for a while and walking them through the process. And then they start to feel comfortable. Then they start to open up and I let them know what's going here, what's not going here, da 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 da. walking through the whole home. And by the end of the day, they're like ready to go because they're not scared. They want to get top dollar. And that always happens. And when I always tell them what is going to go in where. So whether you're using me or whether you're not, yes, I would love you to use me. Your stager really has to know what they're talking about. It's about the market. It's about what's selling right now too, and about what's really hot. You have to know that. So hopefully that clears something up for you.
Okay.
You know, it's like the home that we went into the other day.
Yep.
I loved the staging. I am so critical with the eye. I want to rip the places apart. But what did I say to you? And we had just met. I said, this staging is done so well because everything was put in properly. It had the right aesthetics. Everything was immaculate. And that home is probably going to sell. Oh, if it's not on now, if it's not in escrow right now, it's going to go very fast. And it's
Right.
because it was done right. And
Right.
it's because people can vision themselves in that property.
Well, let me ask you, okay, I love it. And besides just, so what I'm hearing from you is basically, I think it's the realtor needs to make a judgment call of like how to handle that client, whether or
Yes.
not we bring in our stager to assist with going over some of easing it up and making that decision. Maybe you meet with a client and they say, okay, yeah, we're going to stage. Perfect. And it's a done deal.
Yeah.
But then there's also the next step that comes into play, which is really about who pays for home staging, because it can be the seller, it can be the realtor, it could be a shared cost. Maybe there's some other options in there. What, in your experience, are some of these options and how they're handled? Can you go over
Well,
those?
it's all the above what you just said. There are a couple different ways to go about it. I always want to stay away from the real estate agent paying for it, but that's not on my end. So you can either do real estate agent. First off, you want to always do the seller. You never ever want to come out of the real estate agent should never have to come out of pocket. Does it happen sometimes? Yes, because you want to make a deal close. There's also something that's called Compass Concierge. And so that is where the client gets a credit card and then it's taken out and then they pay for the staging up front. And then when the home sells, they get everything taken out through escrow, which is a very seamless matter. We personally have, it's called Revitalize, and that's our in-house funding. So it's very much just like Compass Concierge, and it might take a little bit more time for the process to go through, but it's seamless for the client and it's seamless for the real estate agent. So it doesn't put the real estate agent in a bind because
Mhm.
9 times out of 10, the real estate agent wants to have a home staged because they know the value of it. It's really convincing the seller to do that. But if they know that they can make it up in escrow on the back end and it doesn't have to come out of pocket, it's a win-win situation. So that's really what I would tell you. Try to have it on the back end with a Compass Concierge or a Revitalize with what we use. I know that there are many more out there. And it just makes it really seamless and not uncomfortable for the real estate agent to have to come out of pocket. I've seen it
Well,
happen before.
one of the things that I've done before is I create my own concierge program. So I'll cover some basics, some basic staging, some basic painting, that landscape cleanup and that kind of
Sure.
stuff. And then, yes, I have a separate agreement and it comes out at escrow. But I know that some stagers, you can work it out where they get paid at escrow as well. And then the question is, and of course, it's like when you're negotiating the commission listing,
Yes.
sometimes I will raise it if I'm having to do my own concierge program or whatever. So, or if I'm covering the staging, it's built into the commission cost. So, what's everyone else's ideas around how you handle those number one staging conversations and the cost negotiations with and where you put that cost for everyone else on the call?
Depending on the price point, if it's a good price point, and say it's $10 million listing and you're going to make a shit ton of money, I don't even mind saying I will pay for the staging out of my commission at escrow. You know what I mean? Or you could say 50-50, something like that. But I have yet to pay for it up front.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
But
have
you-
not hit the high market till this year or till last year. So
Right.
I've always staged my own properties. I have a mobile staging she shed that does kitchen and baths and backyard furniture and some trees and mantle stuff, but nothing major. But when you hit the high end market, it needs a stager. It needs a
Yeah.
stager. You can't haul around cool stuff in a little mobile she shed.
Betsy, I'm curious, but do you ever get in the situation where the owner of the property, they have a bunch of furniture and we're going to replace it all? And so what happens to their furniture? Is that something that you handle where it's like you take all their stuff, put it in storage, it's their storage and you move it for them, or how does that work?
No, we don't touch that because it becomes a liability. So for the company, so what we do is I have a company I work with diligently and they're amazing. And so I always refer this company out and then they'll come in, they'll pack it up, they'll move it for them. And then Elite doesn't make a dime on that. That's just a referral company that we use because they're that good and they're that reliable. But no, we don't come in and we don't do that. If we're working with the client and we're using some of the furniture, which is completely separate than what you just said, then yes, then we'll move their furniture around and place it. But as far as moving, no, we're not a moving company. But I have referrals. I've got backups for everything.
Okay. And one of the questions that came up, if you do a charge after closing, what happens if the house doesn't sell? Do you guys do close after, do you somehow shift the costs to closing? And then what happens if it doesn't sell?
Okay, so with that, it's tricky. The easiest way I can say it is our typical, when we give a price quote, our typical is 2 months. We have been very gracious to extend out to 3 months. After that, it's on a month-to-month basis so that we cover the cost of all of it because we don't know we're not mind readers. We don't know when the property is going to go into escrow and all that stuff. So in our contract, after say it's 3-month escrow, then we say from the start of da 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 da. After the contract expires, then we go monthly, which makes the seller feel a lot more comfortable to know, and also the real estate agent to know that we're not just moving the furniture out, everything is fine, blah, blah, blah. We just need to be in communication with the real estate agents, that's all. So it's a seamless process. And you don't ever have to feel that after that contract is up, your furniture is getting moved out. That's not the case at all.
I think the other side of the coin too is, let's just say that somehow, I think, Patty, the answer to your question, if it depends who's paying for the staging. If the seller's paying for it, they're paying for it up front. If you create a deal with the seller that you say you're going to cover it, you're on the hook. If it doesn't sell, you're still paying for it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
If you create a concierge agreement, and I can show you how I've done that in the past, but basically it's a concierge agreement that says that if it doesn't sell or they cancel or whatever, that they're responsible for it, but then you're chasing them down for the money.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's see. Lynn says, okay, here's a question for you, Betsy. When's the best time to remove the furniture? Once we have total sign off, right before the walkthrough, when's the best time?
Right after the 17, because I feel like I don't know, look, I don't know. So except for LA or for Los Angeles or California in general, it's after the 17-day contingency period. You want to come in and because then everything is good, everything's signed off, you're clean, you're okay. I need just 1 week before escrow closes. That's the easiest way to come in and say it. I don't want to wait. And the reason for my company personally, is because we're so busy. I need that 1 week grace period because we have so many trucks going out. I don't want to wait till the 23rd hour and then come in there because once escrow closes, that our property becomes the homeowner's property. So I always want to have a week before, and that, unless you have an addendum. So I don't know how deep you want me to get into this, because I've had a lot of different instances going on, but the easiest, cleanest way that I can say it is I'd like a week before escrow closes.
Okay. Well,
And that's fair.
tell us about the addendum. I'm always interested in these one-off cases or these special handlings or something that's a little bit
Sure.
different. What do you mean by that?
Okay, so I've had some Indian fire drills where like things were supposed to, the home was supposed to close at a certain time, then they decided to close earlier. Stagers are always the last to know about this with the real estate agents, because they don't mean to, but it's like they almost forget about us because the furniture is just sitting there, and then they're like, oh God, here we go. So with me, I've had, hey, we're closing tomorrow. I'm thinking, oh my God. For the poor stager, we now have to get trucks in there. We now have to get our guys in there. We now have to wrap everything up. You don't know how the home could be small, the home could be big. So that's when I get the real estate agent involved, and I get a new contract in play and have an addendum with the new owners, not the sellers. It's got to be with the new owners. Hey, our furniture is still in there. Real estate agent needs to now have an addendum where it says, home stager has within, I like to say just as a comfort zone, but sometimes it doesn't work that way. I like to say within 2 weeks of getting the furniture out, they have to physically sign that, so we have something in writing. Then it
Okay.
means that we're not breaking into the home to go take our property back from the new homeowners. So
Gotcha.
it's so imperative. It's so imperative, because
Gotcha.
that's a whole liability. That's a whole nother Oprah.
Okay. So if we're not able to get the staging out before the home closes,
Yep.
we want to make sure that the buyer agrees to
Yes.
these items belong to the staging company and they will be
Yes.
removed. Okay.
And then out of a courtesy, I'll call the new owner and say, hey, we're coming to get our property at XYZ at blah, blah, blah on this date. It's been seamless. I mean, they're gracious. They're like, great, get your stuff out so
Yeah,
we
get
can
your
start
stuff
putting our
out.
stuff in.
Get your stuff out.
So I literally like to get it out the next day.
Yeah.
I don't wait.
And then I think Lynn had a question about, well, actually, old cabinets, carpet, other items that need to be cleaned up. Me, I usually have a whole slate of vendors and stuff that I call in and put in place and get those
Yeah.
kind of things done. And old wood cabinets, a nice slick white paint on top of that makes it, transforms it amazingly. And yeah, there's a few things. I definitely, when it comes to a listing, I'll look at it and say, who do I need to call? Who do I need to get over here? And I tell them, look, I'm going to coordinate all this stuff for you. We determine how it's going to get paid. And I see you mentioning something about Revitalize and Curbio, and that's a whole nother separate subject. I've attempted using Curbio for a few things and I've never been happy with it. So I've never done it. And there's another one out there too called not Revitalize, but something else, and it's the same thing. They have all their contractors, and I don't. It was just more of a nightmare that have to, and it just also seemed like it was going to delay the time until we were going to put it on the market, just going down that path.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So we use Revitalize, and Revitalize works with Angie's, as in Angie's List.
Yeah.
It's a great program if you have to go that route. Yes, it does take a little bit longer. It takes a couple weeks longer on the front end and the back end, because then you have to get the funding. You've got a third party coming in. If you have to do that with your client, okay. If you don't, and you just, with the client, then I always say, okay, we've got painters, we've got this, we've got that. I refer them out, and then they don't pay us for any of that stuff. I just have them go right to the vendors, and then when they're ready for us, then we come in and we stage. But it's like we work with a whole team as well. So I hope that kind of clears that up. But when you go through Revitalize, they do use like all Angie's List contractors.
And what about the situation where there's a home and there's a bunch of their own furniture? Yeah, we can use that. They need someone to come in, organize, clean it up, get that stuff out, some of it. And we're still going to utilize some of their furniture and then supplement some other things. And they still live there. So what gets done with that kind of situation?
Okay, so that's actually called a partial stage because you're using some of our furniture and some not. So I personally go in and stagers go in and we assess the situation. We see what type of furniture they have. I'm staging this property in a little while and we're using some of the furniture and some not because it's so outdated. And because we know what the market is dictating right now, it's easy for me to go in and look and say, okay, this stays, this doesn't stay, da 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 da. And the price, and so when you're doing a partial stage, we take in consideration the price. It's not going to be as high because we're using some of the seller's material. But I always say, I need all of the accessories out and I need all of the personals out, which means the personal pictures, anything that is meaningful, put that in storage or take it somewhere else. Because if you have something personal in the home, then it doesn't become a vision for everyone to walk in there and envision themselves in that property. That's the easiest way that I could say that. And 9 out of 10 times, the homeowners are very happy with that. And then I can mix and match what they have. Like I have a property right now in Newport and I am using some of the couches. I'm not using some, and one important thing with that is, we always ask for a deposit because we've seen 9 out of 10 times you either have kids and pets. Kids and pets they can ruin our furniture and that's not okay. And it's not that kids and pets don't even mean to, but we have a deposit, we ask for a deposit, and then at the end, when we get our furniture back, we always return the deposit based on the fact that our furniture is not ruined. So I'm only saying that because I don't want to, for the real estate agents that are out there, I don't want them to think, oh, no one told me about that. No, that's the standard.
So how often does that situation come up where there's some sort of damage to the furniture and then it's like the total cost of the couch gets hit on the seller, or is there like a repair bill or a cleaning bill, or how do you
It's
do
a
that?
repair bill. Yeah, so basically it's the one that I'm working with right now. It's a $2,000 deposit and then they get that back at the end. It's because we've got really nice furniture and if that does get ruined, then we do have to go in. We have to have it repaired. We have to have it reupholstered. And I've seen it happen before. It's not, a lot of times it's just not like a cleaning. There was one time I had a kid and he took a Sharpie to a white couch. And I was like, oh. So we literally had to have the whole thing redone again. And it's expensive.
Yeah,
So,
gotcha.
but we also know what the bill is and we're also very fair. So if it's not as expensive as the deposit, we will also refund the additional money.
Of course. Thanks so much for joining us today and talking a little bit about staging and what's involved and all that.
I
And
appreciate it. Thank you.
I put her contact information in the chat in case anyone wants to reach out